Oh my God, I can't believe I pitched fucking Grayson Rodriguez.
Have the best soundbite of all time with that mark right there.
What a way to start.
Yeah. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome in to another episode of the Triple Play Fantasy Baseball Show, a proud member of Underdog and the Underdog Fantasy family. You could say we're fired up tonight. Elsie bringing the energy to start the show here. We got Doc, Marty Party, and of course, Elsie in the house. Elsie, I'm going to let you take the floor because I think people are going to listen to this episode and that's going to be their first impression of it. So if you want to clear the air a little bit, the floor is yours.
I have to say that I almost didn't start Grayson Rodriguez because of how inconsistent he's been. But, he's a 2-start week and they weren't like great starts, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to give him a try. 2-start week. I need the pitching. Oh my God. What is it? What am I going to do now? I mean, I'm wondering, do you drop Grayson? No, maybe. Yes.
Not in a 15-teamer. You got to hold them for there. They might send him down, though. Doc's the insider. He's the one hanging out in right field.
Mm-hmm.
What have you heard?
Have you made any jokes with him yet, Doc, where he smiled and now you keep him forever?
No, not yet. I haven't gotten that close to any of the games. Attendance is still pretty high. I think they give him another outing or two, and then maybe they skip an outing in the rotation. Maybe they have him be a bullpen guy, like a bulk reliever. But speaking of Orioles, for those that can see the YouTube channel, nice little thrift store find right here.
Orioles lamp for a fake fan.
You're fake, David.
I've switched my team 3 separate times.
Where's that going? Is that going next to your bed? Is that where you're putting that lamp?
It's a nightlight.
Maybe. Marty had the idea of just holding it for 50 years and then reselling it for more than I got it.
I can see that.
Yes, that's the businessman in him.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but I played Grayson too. I played Rodriguez.
Rough.
Man, Grayson's causing some pain here. We haven't even gotten to bring out your dead yet. So there'll be a lot of pain on tonight's show. There'll also be a lot of players that made our jaw drops because you guys know we always start our show with our WOW Players of the Week. Kicking things off with our first guy on the screen here, Mr. Schmitt of the San Francisco Giants. Over his last 7 games, he's hitting .429 with a .429 OBP and a .679 slug. He's got 1 homer, 4 RBIs. I believe he actually had 2 RBIs in today's game. So that'll give him 6 over that time. He hit .293 with 21 homers and an .854 OPS between 3 minor league stops last season. So obviously there's a lot to like here, Marty. You said he was one of your players you drafted on your FPAS team, a 50 round draft and hold. So this has been one of your guys since before the season even started.
I got him, man. Yeah, he's one of those guys that's been able to fill in for me. I have him in the FPAS league. He's been, sprint speed, 80th percentile, max exit velocity in the 80th percentile. He's got the 2 bombs, batting, .417 already. No walks, so we'll see if that can develop at a young rate. But he's not striking out. 12.5 K percentage so far through those 36 at bats. I'm liking everything I'm seeing, especially at third base, that deep.
Yeah, it's definitely a position of need, and he's hitting. We got our boy Uncle Ted in the chat tonight. Uncle Ted, we've got a player on deck here that we'll be talking about later. That you're the captain of the ship of that player that we'll get to. So it'll be fun when we get there. But yeah, you got to pick up Casey Schmitt. He is definitely a must add right now, as well as Mr. Fletcher. Right now, I wish the thing didn't cover up the first name because the first name, I always forget at the top of my head. Dominic Fletcher. Yeah, thank you. Dominic Fletcher. Over his last 7 games, a 385, 769 slash line, 2 home runs, 11 RBIs. He batted .313 and slugged nearly 500 in the minors over the last 2 seasons. And then over the weekend, he had a homer in back-to-back games with 9 RBI. Just completely on fire. And little known fact, he's the brother of David Fletcher, and very different profiles because David Fletcher did not hit home runs, and Dominic Fletcher hit 2 homers over the weekend. So I believe Lil Cheesecake, you wanted to talk about Dominic Fletcher and if he's potential must add for your team.
No, I don't think he's a must add. I think that Fletcher, I don't think he really has much more power than anybody's shown so far. He has 2 home runs. He only has 2 barrels also on the season. His exit velocity is not elite. He's a contact hitter. His zone contact rate is elite. So I think you can expect him to have good zone contact and potentially return pretty good batting average. I think expecting him to have multiple 2 home run weekends would be expecting too much of Dominic Fletcher, but he started the last 6 games, and that's not nothing.
Yeah, and he's definitely keep an eye on him. The Diamondbacks have a great young offense. They're actually, I believe, second in the National League West as of this recording too. So they're going to play players right now that are hot and that are producing for him. So as long as Dominic Fletcher's in the lineup, I would say in 15-team leagues, definitely somebody I'd be looking at. Anything shallower, I don't know if he's a must-add, but someone to keep on your watch list for sure. The headline for this week, though, might be Matt Mclain of the Cincinnati Reds, one of their top prospects. He's going to make an infield of dreams for that team in the coming years with Christian Encarnacion Strand and, of course, Matt Mclain, Jonathan India / Noelvi Marte, and Ellie De La Cruz. They have so many studs there, and he's going to be part of that. Only played 2 games so far in the bigs as of when I made the stats page here. He's got a 250 batting average, 333 OBP, and 375 slug, an RBI. But thing to note in the minor leagues right now this season, a 346, 464, 713 slash line with 12 homers and 10 steals, over 168 plate appearances in AAA. Doc, Matt Mclain is definitely the crown jewel of this week's show. Is he somebody when you're making bids this week that you're going to throw some fab at?
I mean, for sure in a 15-team league and probably a 12-team league, just because he can hit for some power, he can steal some bases. I am a little wary, though. I think we saw a lot of positive regression this year. From 2022 to 2023 in the minors, cut the K rate down from 28.1 to 19.7, and that's from AA to AAA. Last year, he had 27 stolen bases and 3 caught stealing. This year in AAA, 10 steals and 5 caught stealing. And now we're seeing that he's striking out, albeit it's a small sample size, much more at the major leagues. I do think he's someone that's talented and that you have to love that he plays in Cincinnati. And that lineup actually is probably middle of the pack, which is something we didn't think we'd be saying about Cincinnati at the beginning of the year. I don't think he's going to give you a lot of great power numbers. I do think he will give you some counting stats and some stolen bases, but I'm not breaking the bank for him.
All right. Yeah, it's definitely, we got to see a little bit more what he can do, but I don't think he's going to go for the type of fab that some of these pitchers have been going recently. So Matt Mclain.
Has there been a hitter that's gone for a lot of fab this year?
I think one of the next hitters that will be Kyle Manzardo of the Tampa Bay Rays.
I want David, can you pull up his picture real quick for me?
Yes.
Now, does he at all look like Pete Alonso?
I could see it. Oh, good.
A little bit like Pete Alonso.
Yeah,
Okay.
I could see it.
That's all I can see. Hopefully, he can hit somewhat like him. But yeah.
I think the next one will be Kyle Manzardo because they say he's like a Vinny Pasquantino type of hitter, and the fact that he's going to be really good for categories for points leagues, I could see him going for a lot of fab. But yeah, there hasn't been too many hitters I think that have gone for that so far. But it will be interesting to see. A couple of honorable mentions that aren't going to be on the rundown, but Uncle Ted brings up some good points here. Robbie Grossman is potentially somebody to pick up. CJ Abrams is really starting to find his stroke at the plate. And Asterio Ruiz, who leads the majors in steals right now, the only player with 20 steals, also had his first home run this past week. And if for some reason, in categories leagues, there's no way he's not signed, but in points leagues, he's, I believe, a top 20 outfielder in points leagues too. So that's somebody, if he's out there, too, to keep an eye on as well.
He's probably on pace for 80 stolen bases, which is wild.
I think it's like in the 70s. Yeah, he was, I think, the favorite to lead the league in steals, if I'm not mistaken, right?
No, it was
Wasn't it Corbin?
I thought he was the betting favorite to lead the league in steals.
It was Acuna.
Oh, it was Acuna. I mean, Acuna is also on pace to have like 60 steals. So crazy season right now. Acuna's got to be the favorite to be MVP. Let's talk about some pitching. Let's talk about James Paxton. Yes, you remember James Paxton? He actually pitched his last start, 5 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, a walk to 9 strikeouts. Had 12 swinging strikes, 10 with his fastball, which was up 4 miles per hour from 2020 and its highest on average since 2016. I don't know if he was super amped up for this start or just I forgot who he faced in that start, but they didn't see him well.
It's the Cardinals.
It was you're right, the Cardinals, but they didn't see him well or something, because James Paxton's interesting. He's one of the most added players across fantasy leagues since that outing. I got to ask you guys, and specifically I'll ask, I believe, you, LC, I think you wanted to talk about Paxton. Is he somebody that you would be rushing to the waiver wire to add?
At a certain point with pitching, it becomes almost like any port in a storm. If you want someone with any potential to be pretty good, and if Paxton can stay healthy for an entire season, I'm pretty sure he can be good. Now I think you're dead on that increased velocity. It could have been because it was his first game back and he was pretty amped up and pretty stoked to be out there pitching. So, but it was nice to see that he had that. He went 5 innings against the Cardinals, 9 Ks. His last healthy year, 2019, pitched 150 innings, 11 Ks per 9. So if you're thinking, hey, maybe I want to get one of these great rookies, if you can get your hand on James Paxton, I think it's about as good a chance as most of these rookies that are coming up to produce a pretty good season.
Don't do it. He's not going to stay healthy.
Out of let's say you have $100 in Fab, LC, what percentage of your Fab would you spend on him?
He was a bargain when I got him in Fab. I got him for about 50 in one league, and I got him for 47 in another league. And so it wasn't that big of a buy. It was the same weekend as Bryce Miller, I think, or no, just this past weekend as Yuri Perez. And so people were focused on Yuri Perez, and I was able to sneak Paxton for a little bit less. He went for more than that in like the bigger leagues and like the main event. Yeah. He was going for a lot more, but I got, out of 100, if I had 100 left out of 1,000, I'd put 15 or 20 on it. I'd put 20% of it.
Okay.
If I had 100 left, if I had spent 900 already, and I hope I'd be okay. But like 15, yeah, he could be a difference maker.
LC drinking that maple syrup. I like it. He's back on the mound doing big things, as well as Dane Dunning. TED Talks. This is him. This is his guy. He's put his name in the chat, I believe, for the last 3 or 4 weeks. And he's finally looks like he's somebody we got to talk about here. Last start, 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run to 6 strikeouts. 3 starts as a replacement for DeGrom since he went down. And Dunning has allowed 3 runs on 14 hits and 2 walks, striking out 12 over his last 17 innings. I think we know what Dane Dunning is at this point. He's not going to be a high strikeout guy. He's not going to be a guy that goes super deep into games. He's not going to be guys that blows hitters away. But is he a guy that's entering the beyond the stream category and somebody that you can plug in to give you a solid 4, 5, 6 innings of solid ratios? Or is he just a ticking time bomb waiting to blow up here, Marty?
The latter for me, a ticking time bomb. I'm sorry, TED Talks. I know you've been, boosting him up here for the last few weeks. xERA 3.94 compared to his ERA of 1.69. Here's what scares me. He hasn't given up a home run yet. So over his whole career, he has routinely given up at least a home run per 9. He has not. So what I'm saying, he's just being extremely lucky at this moment because he's not striking people out. Career low, 16% strikeout rate. His walk rate's dipped too to 4.9. So essentially, he's just only pitching to contact with everything that's going on with the shift and everything like that. If you're not striking people out at a high rate and you don't really have like good stuff to nip the corners, he's a ticking time bomb. Sorry, Ted, I'm staying away.
All right, Dane Dunning, Marty's staying away. How many? If he has another 2 good outings, Marty, are you going to change your tune, or no matter what, are you all in, all out, basically on him, no matter what?
At no point ever will I be in on Dane Dunning.
All right.
Put it on. You can stamp it, Doc. Find the time code, put it in there. Even if he goes number 1 overall next year, I will never be in. I can't do it. Won't do it.
Anti-Dane Dunning. What did he ever do to you, Marty?
Nothing.
Just
I
as
don't
like,
think to say, but
Dane
keep it
Dunning
moving.
made fun of Marty being in a 10-team league.
That's what it was.
that's why he's my alter ego. Michael Wacha is the last player of the night we'll talk about here. He's been surprisingly really good. Over his last 3 starts, 19 innings, 6 hits, 1 earned run, 6 walks to 18 strikeouts. He carried a no-hitter into the 8th inning and threw 7 shutout innings against the Royals, striking out career high 11 with 18 swinging strikes. Yes, that Michael Wacha. Been very good for this Padres team. He's earned a rotation spot for one of the best offenses in baseball, Doc. It's kind of a Dane Dunning discussion here. I don't think he's necessarily going to go super deep into games most of the time. Not going to really give you a ton of Ks for the most part, even though he did have 11 in his last start. But maybe he's someone that can give you innings and some solid ratios. If you see him on the waiver wire, are you going to pick him up, Doc?
First of all, I want to ask you guys, how old do you think Michael Wacha is?
I'll say he's 31.
Can I see the photo again?
Yeah, he is right here.
28.
No idea. Yeah, 34.
He is 31. I always felt like he was older, like 34, 35.
He's been in the league a while.
He has been in the league a while. So I do like what I see from Michael Wacha. He's on pace to throw the most innings that he's thrown since 2017.
Nothing baseball said Wacha 62.
He honestly could be. He's on pace to throw the most innings since 2017 when he was 25 years old. His home runs per 9 are down to 0.8. He's been pitching to weak contact, 89th percentile in hard hit, 81st in exit velocity. But I think he's in the stream category. The 11 strikeouts were against the Royals. Then he had a good game against the Twins, a good game prior versus the Reds in San Diego. But when you look at some of the tougher matchups he had this year at Arizona, gave up 5 earned in 4 innings. Versus the Brewers, 7 earned in 4 innings. Versus Colorado, 4 earned. So I think he's kind of a matchup-dependent guy. Obviously ride the stretch now, and with a couple arms that have gone down recently, if he's available, get him because he will pitch innings. But maybe a sell-high guy, maybe someone that you scoop up in a 12, 15 for sure. 10, I think he's in that streamer category.
All right. Interesting to note. Mark Vientos just hit his first career home run, as Marty put in our chat. Just got called up today, bringing offense to the Mets. And LC would like to give the nickname. What would you like to call Michael Wacha, LC?
Wacha's nickname, I don't know how it can be anything but Fozzie with that beard. And Wacha. That's what Fozzie says.
Art's given a ton of good sound bites in this episode.
I used to think Art looked like Michael Wacha a little bit. Like the smile was a little.
They don't look
similar.
anything alike. What are you talking about?
I thought you were going to say Fonzie.
You know what? If you look at Art from years ago,
the beard,
the smile is similar.
The beard, yeah.
Just the smirk, the smile. When Art was 31, when Art was 31, he probably looked similar to how Michael Wacha does now.
Yeah.
That insult to Wacha or to Art?
I don't care. I'll take that. I'll take that.
Let's go really quickly through the most added players courtesy of CBS.
His nickname has got to.
What is it, Doc?
His nickname got to be Waka Flocka Flame.
I think we said that for him last year, if I'm not mistaken. Call him whatever we want. He's pitching well.
And look what he turned into this year.
Most added players, Yuri Perez is already added in 86 total percent of leagues, 56 this past week. I don't know if I've ever seen a player up at 86% that quickly from probably what was close to 0. That's pretty nuts. But added in 56% of leagues, Christopher Morel, Casey Schmitt, Matt Mclain, Dane Dunning, James Paxton, Dominic Fletcher, and JP France are your most added players. Looking at the most dropped players, again, a lot of times injuries lead this category, but the Twins had 2 guys at the top. Number 1 is the guy that I loved going into the year, Jose Miranda. option to AAA, dropped in 25% of leagues. Tyler Molly out for the year, Tommy John surgery. Jack Sawinski, Eric Lauer, Matt Mervis, Brandon Fatt, Drew Rasmussen, and Jose Alvarado are your most dropped players.
Matt Mervis with the home run today, though, off the flagpole. So don't give up on him yet, folks.
Scoop him up.
Nope.
I think Lauer's getting moved to the bullpen. I think he could start flourishing there. I think like you have him pitch for 2 or 3 innings and he gets to throw harder and not lose his velocity. I think he could be like one of those guys that you could add as like a sparp, or one of those guys that like will you'll pick up that will kind of piggyback and give you some.
I think he picked up a win this week doing that.
Did he really? I have to double check that. Yeah, he seems like a better long relief guy in the bullpen for sure.
And Jose Alvarado is already throwing for the Phillies, so he could be back soon.
Mm-hmm. And then lastly, we're going to look at the schedule. Just note 7 or 6 games for every single team next week. There's not a team that plays more than 7 or less than 6, so it's pretty much a normal week all around in terms of scheduling. So nothing you have to really do there. Mm-hmm. But Vientos, as our buddy Toby Z2 Fantasies here checking in, just hit a 400-foot bomb, so it was a blast. JP France got blasted today. Last time I checked, he gave up 5 earned. So I'm sure he'll be on the most drop list next week. People will have had enough of him. And Gnostic Baseball said Alec Thomas sent down today too. Alec Thomas, I got blasted on Twitter for not having Alec Thomas in my top 75 outfielders going into the season. And they were like mean about it too. They were coming at me. They're like being like, man, who could listen to a guy that doesn't have Alec Thomas in their top 75, but they have Tommy not Tommy Edmond. I can't think of his name for the Mets. Tommy
Pham.
Tommy Pham. No, Tommy Pham. They're like, who has Tommy Pham over Alec Thomas? I'm just saying. I saved those receipts.
David, did fans yell at you? Did they scream at you?
What?
Did the people on Twitter, did they yell at you? Did they scream at you?
Are you trying to like, I don't know what that reference is to.
Oh my god!
Oh, it's to the guy that you on Twitter that you told me is annoying. that I have no idea who it is. That I've never met. That I didn't know who that was. But yeah, no, I got you. Let's go ahead and Elsie, you can go ahead and we've got some people that have been causing pain this past week, and we need you to help us reset. So let's talk about some bring out your dead here.
Yes, bring out your dead. Bring out your dead. This might be kind of a themed week because once again Jose Abreu is causing a lot of pain. We have a lot of people feeling the Jose Abreu hate right now. Marty Sokolsky, our very own draft partner for Underdog Drafts. Talking about Abreu and Hayden Wesneski, another guy who's been breaking hearts all over this country. Doc talked about this is my favorite. Doc talked. I will say Jose Abreu every week until he hits a home run. I think he meant that as like maybe a challenging good thing. I'm gonna will his home runs, but I told Doc he can plan that for
part of me wants. Part of me hasn't dropped Jose Abreu in our 12-team home league because I want to continue complaining about him each week, and I can't complain about him if he's not on my team.
It's good. I mean, I for you, Doc, and for the listeners at home. I mean, David, you're the best talky wordy person on our podcast. Can you describe the beard that so disgusts Doc? I have a picture of it up here on the screen for those listening at home.
It's like pubic hair.
Oh, thank you.
Poor Abreu. He's having a rough season. He hasn't. He's not hitting the fastballs. Everyone's. He's not catching up to the fastballs. In Houston, we have our H-Town fans. I love this. H-Town forever. Jose Abreu looks like he couldn't hit a beach ball right now. Comes back again. Dude can barely even hit air. I love bringing that flame. We all love the flame. Get it out here because, I know you in Houston are feeling it. What are we seeing with Abreu right now? Why is he doing so poorly? There was a great tweet that was first outline in CBS Sports article. I looked at it, and it was this Josh Stroh's account where they were talking about they compared two pitch locations, and similar pitches and two swings, and they thought that maybe they could see some sort of a leg injury. Now, hard to say. The first one in 2020, Abreu hits a home run. Second one, he flies out to foul ball in right field. He flies out. Hard to say. Maybe he was sitting on it, but one thing you can say, and I think you could see it on these pictures here, and I'll describe it to you. He's more closed off on it as he starts his swing, and he's more upright as he starts his swing in 2023. And one thing that I noticed as well is that, and I got a good picture of it here up on the YouTubes, but I'll describe it. He's not locking out that front leg. That's the source of your power, really. That locking out your front leg. He's in 2020 where he got around on that. His hips opened cleanly. He was connected on the chain, and that front leg locked out into the power position. All the power is there. Now he's kind of, leading with his hands and trying to make good contact. Maybe because he's feeling a bit overmatched, maybe because he is injured, maybe that knee isn't feeling too good. Really tough to say, and just hard to know when he's going to turn it around, but hard to drop him too. But we called him last week. Perhaps, I'd understand a drop. Perhaps I'd understand it now. He's just not hitting the ball with authority. Also suggested Joe G. I love the Italian flag. Joe G, thank you for suggesting Manny Machado. Yeah, I mean, I've made this slide before the news today about Manny's hand injury, and it's just, worse upon worse. It's going to be out for a while from getting hit on the hand. But he was already not showing good numbers here. His zone contact was similar to last season. His zone swing rate is down, but in line with his career. What you're seeing was his barrel rates were at a career worst, and his line drive rates were down a lot. 20% last year, down to 15% this year. That hand injury, not going to be helping the power. But Manny, hopefully he can sit out, get that healthy. You got to know he's going to get right. He's a 30 home run bat almost every season since about 2014. Yeah,
they said he's day-to-day, so we're not going to sure what's going to happen with him. Framber Valdez only 2 non-quality starts at home, and he couldn't pick the jersey he wanted to wear for Framber Valdez. There was a question in the chat that I do want to bring up here. It's also from someone I don't recognize. Paul Matthews, first, welcome to the stream, my friend. Alek Manoah is on life support. I think you guys talked about a little bit about him last week, but I am curious right now. If you have Alek Manoah on your team, how much longer are you putting up with what we're seeing here? I think he had 7 walks in his last start. Velocity is down. He was never high velocity to begin with, not striking anybody out. And the walks are still, again, sky high. Like, at some point, he's just clogging up a spot on your bench. At any point, are you dropping him? Like, I've seen Jack Flaherty get dropped in a ton of leagues. Then he had his good start and got picked back up. When is he going to get the Jack Flaherty treatment?
Okay, so right now for Manoah, I'm not starting him, but I'm definitely in a 15-team league. I'm not dropping him. Now, everything scares me, though. K rate 16.4, walk rate 15.0. I don't know if I've ever seen almost like an equal strikeout rate to walk rate. So that's very scary. xERA is 6.51. So there's no way you can start him right now. I would hold him in a 15-team league. A 12, 10-team, I could see you dropping him. Like, or just holding him on your bench. No one's going to trade for him. So, and you can't start him. So I don't know what you do.
What about if someone offers you Zach Eflin? I think I would take Zach.
Rationally, it's actually not a good. It makes sense
Manoah
to do it. I could see someone doing it, but like for how much you invested in Manoah, there's also that part inside of you. When you invested so much in somebody, you don't want to let them go for that. But
I think Zach Eflin is the type. I mean, it's definitely selling low, but I think Zach Eflin's not a bad pitcher, and he's pitching for the Rays. I think I would make that move if Manoah turns it around. I'll stand there like a clown, but
yeah,
I think I'll take Eflin.
I would hold Manoah only for longevity purposes. I don't think Eflin's going to make it another 120 innings.
I was going to say, Eflin's been on the IL this year. I mean, Manoah's also had really tough matchups. Yankees at Phillies, at Red Sox, versus Mariners, at Yankees, versus Rays. He's done well in his good matchups, which, I mean, there haven't been many of them, but he's also kind of pitched to a rough schedule. And I know he plays in the AL East, but like,
that means most of his matchups are done. You know, like most of his AL East matchups are done if he's already done those. So he's only get 2 times through this time.
At Kansas City, 7 innings, 1 hit. I mean, he did give up 4 walks and 5 Ks, but that was his only win on the season. Like, let him get a little bit of the easier teams, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think I mean, the thing that most people are talking about is like, it's possible he can't keep up with the pitch clock because he's not in the best shape pitching. You know, he's had to be sped along. I think it's up 4 or 5 seconds. He's pitching quicker.
Yeah.
So, you know,
what about Manoah or Bibee?
Manoah.
I would Manoah in that one, but it's close.
Yeah. I mean, Manoah right now has a 3.33 ERA on the road and an 8.50 ERA at home.
Mm-hmm.
So pushing in those fences. So his home run per 9 in rookie year 0.97. Last year 0.73. This year 1.6. So he's pretty much doubled it. So the home run's killing him right now on top of those walks. He needs to get his command going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It'll be interesting to watch what he does. I don't have any Alek Manoah in any league, so
me neither, unfortunately, but fortunately, you know what I mean?
Let's go and let's talk about let's go to the doctor's office and who Doc is recommending to stream. By the way, I listened to Doc's streamers last week, not on the show, and there was one huge blow up last week to the ERA because he picked Matt Boyd to stream.
You know what? Sometimes when you go to the doctor's office, okay, they might not tell you what you're looking for.
You know what that ERA was doing? Well, look at the graphic. It was blowing up like a balloon, that season-long ERA. When's it going to pop?
Yeah, David, you want to know what the ERA was for last week when you include that?
What?
3.94. Thank you very much.
That's getting close to 4, Doc. That's mediocrity.
16 innings, 3.94 ERA, went 1-2 with a 1.12 whip and 9 Ks. The 9 Ks I am not proud of. But keep in mind, these are owned in less than 50% of ESPN leagues. Starting out, King Louie, the 14th, Varland from David's Twins, owned in 8.9% of ESPN leagues. Please don't blow up on me. He faces an Angels team that are 2-5 in their last 7, about to be 2-6 as I hear them losing in the backyard of Camden Yards. At least 6 innings or at least 6 Ks in all 4 outings, and he's gone at least 5 in 3 out of those 4. And I like that he throws 4 pitches, and I hope that he throws the slider a little bit more because hitters are hitting .63 against that. So love to see when a pitcher has a pitch that effective. The next, and this is kind of a gut call, it's Roansy Contreras, owned in 6.8% of ESPN leagues. He's gone at least 5 in 7 out of 8 games, so he's been eligible for the win. The one game that he didn't, he was 2 outs short of it. Now, he had 1 K last time against the Nationals, but I'd say 4 to 6 is what we've seen in his range. He's had a season high of 8, so you know that can be the upside that he's had from there. And the Diamondbacks have a 312 OBP on the road. Their batting average is 256, so they're going to swing. And I'm going to take Roansy Contreras over the Diamondbacks. Hopefully that's not a Matthew Boyd type game. And then the last is Tanner Bibee, owned in 16.9% of ESPN leagues. The control is great, 89th percentile for walks. He's allowed 1 home run in 22 innings pitched this season. And the Mets, below 500, I don't think we're talking enough about them spiraling. Now, obviously, they've been hit with injuries on the pitching side, but the hitting has been underwhelming also. Pete Alonso's batting average is career low. Francisco Lindor has been cold this year. I don't think we've slandered him at all yet on these shows. They've only scored 5+ in 5 out of 16 games in May. So I'm going to take Mr. Bibee against the Mets as my third streamer.
I was listening because I live close to New York. So like the teams that I hear like around here are the Mets and Yankees. And they were like on talk radio today saying like 30 days. They have 30 days to turn it around, or they're like saying like Buck Showalter is going to be shown the boot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
mean, you got to think that.
It's crazy. Like, I mean, in all sports, there is no leash for anybody with underperformance. Like coaches, managers, the turnaround is crazy. I know the NBA is not an NBA show, but like coach of the year, like people from a couple of years ago are getting fired. Managers that are good managers that have led teams to success have 1 or 2 years of just underperformance. And most likely it's just the players just not performing and they get the boot. Like it's a very cutthroat type of time for sports if you're a coach or manager of a team.
It's almost like it's better serves you to be a coach on a bad team because expectations aren't as high.
Well, Steve Cohen spent a ton of money. He wants them to win this year. And yeah, I mean, they're not performing up to standards, but I can understand firing Buck. Of course I could. Yeah. I mean, get someone younger in, someone who might have more energy. I don't know. I thought Buck was a weird hire for them last year.
Yeah, definitely. They might need a new voice in there. So we'll have to see what happens with them. But Marty, let's go ahead and let's talk about 2 start pitchers, because we know Doc's been itching at the bit to see who you got.
As always, yes, he is. So we are going to start with the no doubters. And this week, it's a light no doubters. But before I do that, I'm going to tell you what the dates. So May 22nd through the 28th, these are the 2 start pitchers. Yes, starting with the no doubters. Look at those quads, Dave. David, I know you're in the gym 7 days out of the week. So those are some pretty impressive quads, I'm sure. Even for you. Spencer Strider versus the Dodgers versus Phillies. I don't care who Strider's playing. He's either 1 or 2 the best fantasy baseball pitcher in the world. Garrett Cole versus Baltimore versus San Diego. You got to start both of them. Duh. Hard-hitting analysis there. The should starts. Zach Wheeler versus the Diamondbacks versus the Braves. Justin Steele versus the Mets versus Cincy. Eduardo Rodriguez at Kansas City versus the White Sox. Dylan Cease at the Guardians at Detroit. Alex Cobb at Minnesota versus Milwaukee. Bailey Ober versus the Giants versus the Blue Jays. Corbin Burns, I think it might be the first time he's not been a must start.
Yeah.
21% K percentage has been pretty brutal for everybody. Versus Houston versus the Giants. Luis Castillo versus Oakland versus Pittsburgh. And Christian Javier at the Brewers at Oakland.
Yeah, I'm definitely.
One of these things is not like the other. Is that a song or is that Alex Cobb in this section?
That throw you off there? Seeing Mr. Alex Cobb, Mr. 2.97x ERA, the 6th best home run per 9 ratio, the highest ground ball rate at 62.4. Now, the K percentage is only 20.4, so that has been making me a little nervioso, but he's been really good. I mean, if you're in a 12 or a 15-team league, you got to start him.
Where are you seeing that xERA? Because on Fangraphs, that xERA is 3.63.
I got it from the pitcher list, so it may not been updated from. I know it was 2 days ago, but yeah, I mean, I'm starting him even at that. I mean, at Minnesota versus Milwaukee.
I mean, at Minnesota and Milwaukee is a little risky.
Not for me.
Just saying.
Go ahead. Why is it risky? You need to explain yourself, because more times out of 10, I'm right. So I need to hear why you're right. Tell me.
I don't agree with you that you are more often right than I am. Maybe we'll start keeping a standing count on that. Like I said, I mean, the xERA is 3.63.
Still well below
the
league average of 4.50. So 3.6 xERA so far, so good. Okay.
A whip at 1.35. I think that the Twins and Brewers are kind of tougher matchups. Like, you usually put a should start when somebody has an easy start at least on there. Like Christian Javier at Oakland, like that's a given. Like, you know, at Detroit, at Kansas City, when the Mets or when the Reds have to play on the road, like those are all easy ones. I think Minnesota and Milwaukee are two middle of the pack teams in terms of offense. The Brewers are the number one team in the NL Central, and the Twins have some guys that can hit for. I mean, you're facing two teams that are tops at their division.
Brewers exactly 100 WRC plus, so they're only an average offense.
Ooh, Burns with 7 Ks tonight. I didn't realize that.
How many innings?
I think it's like the 4th or the 5th. I'll double check that.
Yeah, Minnesota 104 WRC plus, so 2 average offenses.
Okay, we shall revisit. I'm going to make a note on this.
Does Alex Cobb having 5 walks last night scare you, Marty?
No, and that's the big blow up. That's why his WHIP for the year has been higher than usual. I'm not an Alex Cobb kind of guy, but I don't think it's too risky to start him for next week. If you're in a 15-team league, there's no way you're not starting him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
There's just no way.
15, of course.
That's what we talk about. If I talk about a 10-team league, I get in trouble.
What about 12? What about 12?
Dang, Corbin Burns gave up 3 earned runs tonight in 6 innings with 7 strikeouts. That's bad for him.
I mean, it's been good for him this year, but
Yeah.
we'll take it. All right, moving on. Risky business with the cover athlete of Jose Brio, who I do like, but yeah, it's been tough for that man. So starting with Chris Bassett at Tampa Bay, at Minnesota, Dustin May at Atlanta, at Tampa Bay, left today's game with right elbow pain. Ugh, you never want to see that, especially with Dustin May. So hopefully he'll be okay. Stay tuned, listeners, and if you have him, just stay on the updates, see what's going on with him. Mackenzie Gore, I'm starting to lean towards that. Mackenzie Gore is a professional baseball player, and he should be in the league. Versus San Diego, at Kansas City, Kodai Senga at Chicago Cubs, at Colorado, Yuri Perez at Colorado, at Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, Jose Barrios at Tampa Bay, at Minnesota, Edward Cabrera at Colorado, at the Angels, Graham Ashcraft versus St. Louis, at the Cubs, Marco Gonzalez versus Oakland versus Pittsburgh, Mike Clevenger at the Guardians, at Detroit, Brady Singer versus Detroit versus Washington, and Mikel Lorenzen at the Royals versus Chicago. And what you'll see for those last 3, Clevenger, Singer, and Lorenzen, usually they would be like a pretty much, take a seat for me. But every one of those have back-to-back great matchups. Clevenger, Cleveland's ranked 29th versus righties. Detroit dead last, 30th versus righties. Brady Singer versus Detroit, and then Washington. And then Lorenzen at the Royals versus the White Sox. KC ranked 3rd worst, and the White Sox ranked 8th worst versus righties. So I could see you rolling the dice in a larger league with them, but it's still usually would be sits. But man, those are some really good matchups there. Then lastly, take a seat.
Oh, why'd you have to take him as the cover?
Hey, Mr. Sean Mania, great to see you, buddy. I hope things turn around for you. But yeah, here are the take a seats. Taijuan Walker versus the Diamondbacks, at the Braves. Sean Mania at the Twins, at Milwaukee. Kyle Bradish at the Yanks versus Texas. Luis Ortiz versus the Rangers, at the Mariners. Steven Matz at the Reds, at the Guardians. Austin Gomber versus the Marlins versus the Mets. Tommy Henry at Philly versus Boston. Peyton Battenfield versus the White Sox versus St. Louis. Jared Schuster versus the Doyers versus Philly. Kyle Muller at Seattle versus Houston. Corey Bradford at Pittsburgh, at Baltimore. Luis Medina at Seattle versus Houston. Josh Fleming versus Toronto versus Dodgers. And lastly, Chase Anderson versus the Miami Marlins. And then lastly, the Mets. That will round out your take a seats for next week.
All right. For the most part, I think you're spot on there, Mr. Tallman.
I'm always right. Always. Even when I'm wrong.
Gosh, and he wonders why I just look for opportunity.
There you go. Doc, I believe we're going to head into your segment, or what is next on our little docket here. We do have our round table, of course, but are we going straight to Marty's party? Is that what's next on our schedule here?
Yeah, I mean, and with the round table, right?
All right, let's go to Marty's party then. Let's take a trip.
This would be the perfect time for your sound. I need the soundboard back, man. I feel
You
like
guys, if you one of you guys, I can tell you what the link is. You guys would have to do it on your computer.
I'm not a DJ. I can't be in the mix. It's DMendy in the mix. One of us will screw it up.
Unfortunately, my school blocks all these sites on this computer.
DJ DMendy.
If you're listening to this, start a GoFundMe for David so he can get a new laptop.
All my money's going toward the baby and potentially a house.
Yeah, he would misappropriate those funds toward his house, not toward the laptop. Yeah.
All right, this is Marty's party, so this is coming up for this weekend. Who's invited this week? Let's take a look here. Taylor Walls versus the Brewers. So Taylor Walls, second base, third base, shortstop eligible. I mean, he's on the best hitting team in baseball. 66% rostered on the year. He has 7 home runs, 7 stolen bases, slashing 281, 370, 641. Playing Milwaukee 3 games playing at home 3 games versus Milwaukee, and no Corbin Burns. So you don't really have to worry about the best pitcher on the team. You should be able to move pretty quickly through there. Number 2, Marcell Ozuna. Maybe won't win Husband of the Year, but he might be a good streamer for this weekend. 18% rostered, 6 home runs over the last 14 days, which is absolutely outrageous. He's got 3 home games this weekend versus Seattle. He's only 18% roster, so in your deepest league, he may be a good pickup if you need some power. And then lastly, Nick Prado at the Chicago White Sox for 3 games on Kansas City. First base, outfield eligible, 24% rostered, 328 on the year. He just stole a base today. He's got 2 home runs. Hey, out of those 3, as I always go around the horn here, Doc, who would you invite to my party? It's an exclusive. We're gonna have a small gathering here. Only, friends, maybe some family. That's it.
So we're only inviting one person.
One person gets to make an appearance this weekend.
Well, it's not Marcell Ozuna because in addition to being a bad husband, he has multiple DUIs, and Marty doesn't want those legal consequences. So Marcell Ozuna, you are not welcome. And Nick Prado, Marty, I feel like you'll like him, but he's a Royal. And I feel like you wouldn't include someone in your division when there's options of AL East people. And Taylor Walls, then you can play to the window, to the walls. And
I wrote that down on my sheet. Damn it, Doc. That's how I was going to close it out.
Yeah, so it's just like I know you really well. And for that reason, Taylor Walls, welcome to the party.
DMendy.
I'm with Doc. I think once he put the line out there to the window, to the walls, I'm already in.
To the window, to the Taylor Walls. Art.
You know something?
Who would you invite?
I
want to hear who you would want to come.
I want Nick Prado to come. I feel like my man's gonna enjoy a nice bowl of pasta with me at the party. We're gonna make some pasta. He's gonna hit some home runs, feast on that Chicago pitching. Ugh. But Nick Prado, yeah, he seems like a fun guy. Nice guy, big guy like that. You always want a big guy around you. Taylor Walls, come on, he's puny. He's my size.
I like that. I mean, you make a really good point for Nick, but Taylor, to the window.
Yeah.
To the walls. To the walls. You're coming.
That's what drops down my wall.
Exactly.
That is on point.
So Taylor, you're coming to the party, buddy.
Marty, it's like I know you. And I could sense that you had that from there.
You could see me in 8th grade all sweaty at the dance, singing that song out loud.
Oh, yeah. Grinding on someone.
Yeah.
Who knows? It was really dark in there.
There's so many good names. I have a burger with Jake Burger next week. I want to show this really quick. So Toby does really good graphic work, and he's had real life stuff going on. He's doing a lot of cool edits for us. Still part of the team. Just sent me this in the DMs for Doctor's office. I want to get Doc's live reaction to looking at this. What do you think?
I love it.
Yeah, dude, he killed it.
My badly photoshopped one.
Yeah, it's so much better. I'll make sure that's uploaded into the graphics for next week.
Toby.
Toby is the man. Good to always have him in the chat. And again, does amazing stuff with graphics. Make sure you guys are following him at Z2 Fantasy on Twitter. Let's get to the round table. that's our last segment of the night. I'm interested what's on the docket.
All right, fellas, grab your glasses of wine, put your pipes down, put on the glasses, turn on the fire, and we're here for a round table. Now, as we've discussed throughout the year, there has been a multitude of injuries, and everybody has been affected in some capacity, whether you play redraft or dynasty. Now, we're always talking from the seller's perspective. Are you going to sell? Are you going to hold? But we don't really talk about from the buyer's perspective of what you would give for these pitchers. So I have 3 pitchers from a redraft and 3 pitchers from a dynasty perspective. And I want you to tell me if you would trade or what you would trade for them and how comfortable you'd be with their expectations, moving forward, whether it be this year or from a long-term perspective. So the first guy we're going to talk about is Max Fried. So Max Fried is on the IL because of a strained forearm, and it's likely that he's going to be on the IL a couple months. They did not say it is season ending. And just for reference, Kyle Wright said that he would be out longer than Max Fried and is about out 2.5 months. So let's say a July time frame for Max Fried. David, I'm going to start with you. What would you feel comfortable giving up for him?
For Max Fried?
Yeah, in redraft.
It
could be hitter or pitcher.
May I ask this? Is it head to head or is it roto?
Well, that's a good way of interpreting.
Okay.
If that's going to change how you're good, if you wouldn't give as much for one league for the other.
Let's see. For Fried right now, I'm kind of like pulling up a list of pitchers.
Artie and Mart, you can Artie and Mart. Marty and Art, you guys can jump in.
Marty and Artie.
It could be Mart, and then it'll be both of us.
Oh.
Mart. Yeah, so Max Fried in a head-to-head, I'm a lot more aggressive because it's possible he comes back in 2 months and you have him for, if you're like a top 4 team in a head-to-head league, you got him for the last month and maybe the playoffs, which is the most important part of it. Mm-hmm. So there I'm looking a lot more aggressive. In Roto, I can't imagine. I'm not sure what I would give up for him.
What about Alek Manoah?
No.
I would keep Manoah. And I don't. It's hard for me to do pitchers, like trade a pitcher for another pitcher. I don't know if you guys have had success with that in your league before, but it seems difficult.
I mean,
What about let's try to find the right range then. So
let's say like a Rowdy Tellez.
I think
Jose Abreu.
I mean,
I would give up Jose Abreu to get Max Fried.
For sure.
Especially in a head-to-head league, maybe in a Roto.
In a Roto league, I don't know. I'm worried that he's not going to be back.
That's what I'm saying. So I don't think you get much for him right now. That's why I'll throw some names at you. Kodai Senga?
I'd rather have Senga. Although I'll say this, Senga's walk rate, which has been absolutely terrible this year, and that's the reason why he's had the most blow-ups, because right now it's at 14.1. Mm-hmm. Now, over 1,340 innings in the Japanese league, because I was looking this up earlier, he had a 3.4 walk to 9 ratio. So he's always been bad with his command.
Okay,
it's only gotten worse here.
Let me ask you guys, from a hitter perspective, would you give up JD Martinez for Max Fried? JD Martinez, DH only, can go in your utility spot.
Yeah, I don't want any JD Martinez on my team.
I think if I have I think that's a decent. I'd try that. Yeah, maybe.
Remember when you guys were talking about Dane or JD Martinez?
No, I'd probably
aim
lower.
For Gonzalez, and one is at least in the majors.
Very true. I can't.
JD Martinez hasn't been that bad. I think he has 4 home runs this year. He just got off the injured list. Hopefully he's going to start hitting again. I don't know.
What about Sean Manaea? Would you give up Sean Manaea for Max Fried?
I think for one of these guys, like I would trade if I had an excess. Like if I was sitting in excess and I had like an extra closer in a Roto league, sure, I'd trade a closer for a stash, something like that. If I felt like I needed a starter, like I think that's the easiest trade to make for you. Like, what are you giving up? Like, do I have 5 good outfielders and I might be able to snatch one off of the waiver wires this season? I can give up an outfielder. That's the way that's how I look at my roster when I'm looking for a trade.
Alex Cobb.
I would take Cobb for the next 2-3 months in a
I'd take
roto league.
Cobb.
I mean, you know, the Braves have World Series aspirations, so that's why I think they'll be extra careful with Fried. And I don't see him pitching anything meaningful till probably the very end of the season. I could see them like basically saving him and then like ramping him up like the last month of the year to get ready for the playoffs.
Okay. What about Riley Green? Who would you rather have?
Who's been hot? He's hitting like just under 300 now. I think I'd have
Riley Green.
I'd take
a lot
Riley
of
Green.
singles, a lot of doubles, not a lot of power. I haven't seen the stolen bases yet, but yeah.
I would take Riley Green.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's go to our next guy. And this was a David guy last year. It was Brandon Woodruff, who was off to a great start to begin the season. Through 2 outings, he was 1-0, a .79 ERA, a .88 whip, and 12 Ks. And then all of a sudden, his shoulder, his subscapular strain came out of nowhere. Now, he was moved to the 60-day IL recently. Didn't affect the recovery time, but just means that he won't be able to return until the end of June. And the update on the MRI, it's very positive relative to what it could have been. So some ambiguity right now. Brandon Woodruff has been SP1 caliber in certain stretches in his career. Showed very good stretches before he was hurt this year. What would you guys give up for him?
I got Woodruff as more enticing to trade for than Fried. If I'm comparing the two, I like Woodruff over them. I'd give up more for Woodruff. Yeah. I mean, I'd probably look to give up a hitter for him. JD Martinez for Woodruff. I don't know if that'd get it done. I like him.
What about John Gray? Who would you rather have in a roto? Like John Gray right now for a couple months before Woodruff gets it back, or
I think it's context. Like if
True.
I'm
all of it is. That's what makes it hard for trades.
If I'm in first place, I'll trade for Woodruff so I can wait. If I'm fighting for a playoff spot and I'm like, 8th or 9th place right now, I can't afford to wait for him. And I probably need the John Gray right now. So that's where I think, to be honest, it comes down to for me is like where you are in the standings.
There's also, and I've done this a few times, an IL for IL trade, like a stash for a stash. If someone has a hitter, if you have a hitter and you see that they have Woodruff and you need pitching and they need hitting and you can trade your stash for stash, like those types of trades do sometimes come up and work. I'm trying to think if there's a hitter that might come back later this season that might be a good comp for one of these pitchers. I don't know. Trevor Story's probably too late in the season. Someone like that. Probably too late in the season. I don't know. Trevor Story for Brandon Woodruff, for Max Fried.
I think I'd rather have Woodruff or Fried.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I'd have to look that up.
It's interesting though. Very interesting.
What about someone like Jordan? I mean, let's say you're in a 15-team league, like a deeper league. Would you give up someone like Jordan Walker that obviously was drafted pretty high, got demoted, and has a chance to get called up again?
Yeah.
And we're talking about redraft, of course.
I would do that. Definitely. Find someone who believes in Jordan Walker for sure.
What about for going back to Woodruff, Stanton or Woodruff? Giancarlo Stanton update
Woodruff,
says.
come on.
What about Tristan McKenzie or Woodruff?
Oh, that's so.
I'll take Woodruff.
McKenzie.
No love for sticks.
I've been holding McKenzie in one league. And it's been pushed back. The timeline seems like it keeps getting pushed back.
Yeah, it sucks, man. I think he was going to really break out this year too. Tristan McKenzie, I think, had it all in place.
Would you trade Miles Michaelis if you needed to win? Would you Miles Michaelis for Woodruff?
I would trade Miles Michaelis. I'll trade Miles Michaelis for a bag of tennis balls.
All right, what about this? Merrill Kelly.
Ooh, Merrill.
I like Kelly.
I'm keeping Merrill.
Yeah.
I think that's a good one though.
What about Severino?
Nah, I'm taking Woodruff.
Oh, Tristan will begin a rehab assignment.
Whoa!
2 hours ago, this came down.
Oh, so
Ooh.
Nah, I still don't believe it until I see it. They said
Tristan
Michael
extends Zero
Brandt was
Woodruff.
so
Now it
close
opens
to-
up again.
Severino. No, I'd keep Severino.
Who would
Yeah,
you rather have
don't-
if you need a hitter? Alex Kirilloff for Woodruff.
I like Carroll.
I'll take Woodruff.
I think
I don't
Carroll
like-
will get hurt
I don't
again.
like getting people that are chronically injured.
What about Adam Duvall?
That was the one I was thinking too.
Because
Nah.
they both brought in the comments here.
I'm taking Woodruff.
Didn't he break his wrist? Like
Yeah, he did.
that's literally risky.
Oh man, risky.
Risky.
It's risky.
Look, it's the late night hour with triple
Yeah, there we go.
fantasy.
There's two pitchers I want to talk about from a dynasty perspective of what you would do in trading for them. The first is Luis Garcia for the Astros. So he's set to undergo Tommy John surgery. He's 26 years old. So let's just say conservatively he misses the rest of 2023 and the most of 2024. And he comes back and he's 28 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Playing on the Astros, who potentially still have a good offense at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Still relatively young.
Mm-hmm.
What would you give up for him?
Well, Jose Abreu is still going to be under contract, so you know that offense is going to be good. I think he's someone who I would be trying to acquire, and in a dynasty, at this time I'd be trying to ideal maybe a minor leaguer that's a year away for him. Maybe not a high end one. I tried to package two of my middle end minor leaguers for him, but I like him. I'd want to acquire him, but I wouldn't be trying to send anything. Well, maybe I guess if my team is rebuilding, I'd still be trying to acquire him. But you could get rid of some low end current talent for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, what do you guys think?
I don't think you would have to give up much. And obviously,
Yeah.
Everybody has their own dynasty league, but I feel like the Luis Garcia value was going down already to begin this year, and the Tommy John just put the nail in the coffin in whatever trade value he had if you're the owner of him. But once again, he's going to be 28 years old. He's going to be playing on a good offense, somebody that I think acclimated to the pitch clock from when he got hurt to the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it really depends. Like if the person has in a win now, you could give them someone like, I mean, if you were in a win now this year, would you take Rich Hill for Luis Garcia? Rich Hill hasn't been bad.
No. What about an outfielder, like a
What about Andrew Benintendi?
Andrew Benintendi?
Bennett.
Who would you rather have? Like, would you give up Benintendi to get Luis Garcia down the road?
Mason Miller.
I would give up Benintendi for Luis Garcia.
What about Sonny Gray?
No, I'd rather have Sonny Gray.
Okay.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Tariq Skubal.
Yeah.
When's he coming back? This year?
Only God knows. Let's see.
Who was your last player, Eric?
Yeah, so the last one is Kyle Wright. And I was going to have Robbie Ray, but Robbie Ray's 31 and coming off Tommy John surgery. I think that's pretty much sunken value at this time. But Kyle Wright, 27 years old, coming off a shoulder strain to begin the season, back on the aisle with that same shoulder strain, going to be out past the All-Star break, but a guy that won 21 games last year.
And he won someone a lot of money too.
He did win someone, the checks haven't been cashed yet, but I did want to give Kyle Wright a little bit of a shout out. But a guy that had the prospect pedigree, was taken in the first round, 21 wins last year, going to be on the Braves team that has a great offense backing him up. What would you give for him?
His value to me is like so minimal right now because
Ding, ding, ding. That's the right answer.
his value is so minimal because he had a breakout year last year because he changed up his pitch mix, and 21 wins were obviously everybody knew that was fluke. Now, I'm not saying he's a bad pitcher. He's probably like more like a high 3s, low 4s ERA pitcher. But right now he's got shoulder problems. And like that's a big deal to me. Like in a dynasty league where I already didn't see a super high ceiling from him. So like if you have Kyle Wright on your team and you're trying to sell him, like you can't expect you're going to get much for him. Like you're going to probably get Uncle Ted's and Mike Soroka for Kyle Wright.
Let me ask you, who would you rather have in a dynasty, Noah Syndergaard or Kyle Wright?
Oh,
Kyle Wright. That's two. I mean, Noah Syndergaard's 1 foot out the league at this point. Like the Dodgers were the last. Like the Dodgers were like trying to fix him, and he still looks like he's but.
Okay, who would you rather have in dynasty, Patrick Corbin or Kyle Wright?
I mean, you're literally talking about the guys that are at the bottom of the barrel.
What about Andrew Heaney? 30. He might be 32 now.
I think I would take Kyle Wright. That's a closer comparison, though.
What about Max Scherzer or Max Scherzer or Kyle Wright?
Oh,
I mean, if you're rebuilding,
that's a tough one. I'd hope to get more for Scherzer than a banged up Kyle Wright.
Yeah.
If I could get Scherzer for Kyle Wright, I would do that, and then see if Max Scherzer turns it on again, then see if I could flip Scherzer for a better thing down the road.
What about Josiah Gray? Kyle Wright or Josiah Gray?
Gray.
Yeah, I think Gray.
Josiah Gray.
What about Martin Perez for Kyle Wright? That's an interesting. I think I would take Wright.
I like.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
I would take Kyle Wright.
I would take Perez for the year if we're going to roll it out. You know, if you're trying to win it right now.
Syndergaard is joining Bauer in Japan.
Nothing makes me happier than watching Trevor Bauer suck.
Dude,
I just had to say that.
Isn't it crazy that the Mets had Syndergaard and DeGrom and Matt Harvey, and it looked like they were going to be like
Zach Wheeler.
Remember when the Detroit Tigers had Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander and
Doug Fister?
Doug Fister was really good.
And Rick Porcello won the Cy Young that year.
After we got rid of him. But yeah.
And remember when they gave Jordan Zimmerman that big contract?
Yeah, I think about it all the time.
Oh, man. It's a good roundtable, Doc. Interesting injury scenarios. Doe Fister.
I think the biggest thing with injuries, and we proved it here, Doc, is that there's a huge range of what people are willing to give and like what you value. And
exactly.
It's every stat, every category, every league so different, but it's good to evaluate that and kind of just see, because you never know, you might be able to get away with something. One of those trades that we all laughed about, someone might do it, especially in like a standard home league, so it doesn't hurt to throw it out there.
Exactly. I think so many times when you're talking about trades, you have to put players to actually see if that would work. And that's the whole point of this exercise here.
I didn't know Gnostic Baseball was a Tigers fan. Marty, if you can't tell by his hat, is a Tigers fan. So we always give him just a lot of crap about it. Gnostic Baseball, how long have you been a Tigers fan? I'm curious as we wrap up the show. Just if
Gnostic you and Marty Baseball, hit me up on Twitter, Marty_Tallman. We can, talk about how sad we are together and just, try to make
You can co-host You can co-host Marty's party with him.
That'd be pretty fun. A Tigers fans party. You could probably. There's a lot of Tigers fans on Twitter. Like I feel like a lot more than teams like that are usually that bad. Like, to be completely honest.
I think that when your team has been bad for a long time, you look for other outlets. So whether that's Twitter, fantasy baseball, whatever it is, just to hide the pain. So yeah, I believe it.
Oh, man. Well, it's always fun here. Thanks to everybody for hanging out in the comments. Remember, we're live every single week, usually on Thursday nights. But just set the bell and you guys will get the notification when we're usually live. We love people hanging out in the chat. Uncle Ted Talks, Gnostic Baseball, Toby. Our guy, Forrest, wasn't in there tonight, but sometimes he's hanging out in the chat too. It always makes it more fun to do the shows with you guys interacting during. So if you guys ever want to be a part of the live stream, just make sure you set the notifications for when we go live every week. We don't miss a show, so you can count Wednesday, Thursday, whatever day we'll be out there. Fellas, I think that's it for this week, unless I'm missing something. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. Make sure you guys, if you want to listen to the podcast version, you guys are subscribed to the Triple Play Fantasy Baseball Podcast Network. We have this show, we have the Fantasy Baseball Beat, and we have the Call Up. So we have all your fantasy baseball needs in any way, shape, or form here. But for Lil Cheesecake, for Marty Party, for Doc, I'm DMendy. We're going to make like a bread truck, and we're going to haul these buns. Catch you guys next week.